How to time travel. Let's say this is a normal timeline and you're trying to go back to the past. Well, then you would cause a different future, which is normal, but definitely not the best way to time travel. So, types of time travel. There's change, then there's realistic, then there's memory, you have try again, and finally one line. Of course, these are what I call them, not the proper way. So to start off, let's talk about change, which is exactly what I said earlier with the example. So change is going back to the past and then changing the future, which is definitely not the best way. Then we have realistic, which is actually doable, and instead of going to the past, you rather go to the future. So if you're at the present, with realistic, you go to the same time span in less amount of time. So for example, let's say you want to go 5 years into the future, then for you it might take less than 3 years depending on where you are. This is called time dilation and you can see it up on another video, but basically if you go into space and do some other things, you can slow down your rate of growth. Then we have memory. Memory is simply change, but with a little twist, in which once in the future, you remember yourself going to the past to change the future. Last but not least, we have try again. Try again is basically what every game does, in which that you go allowing you to try again whenever you fail or like in this example fall in a pit. Try again and see if you can not fall in the pit. Finally, with one line, instead of having multiple directions, you only go in one line. As in, if you go back in the past, you won't ever change the future, but rather watch yourself do the same actions. And depending on that, you try to prevent your death, such as in Harry Potter. But that's not all. Let's say you have this box, and in that box you can time travel. And let's say you turn this box on, which allows you to then, whenever in the future you want to time travel, you can time travel to this point, but no further back, like what's shown in the movie Primer. Now for the paradox. This paradox involves you to go back into the past and then do something different. And then when you come back into the present, your world suddenly changes. Take, for example, what they call the grandfather paradox. Since you go back in time and kill your grandfather, and by the time you come to the present, you won't exist. Since if you have this family tree and if you remove your grandfather, then your grandfather couldn't marry your grandmother, which results in your father not being born, which then means you won't exist. Finally, that means you can't return and change the past, which that relates to a paradox since if you're alive, you will kill your grandfather, then you won't exist. So then you couldn't time travel, and this would be an infinite loop. But as twisted as it is, there's nothing more twisted as than killing your own grandfather. So that's the paradox. And so yeah, and that's how you time travel.